Hi and welcome back to the FEI channel. My name is Lucy Robinson. You may recognise me from my YouTube and Instagram as Footloose Eventing. I'm here today in Norfolk at the Redwings Horse Sanctuary and I've come to meet Head of Welfare and he's going to talk to us about everything you need to know about stable hygiene. Now this is a part of the Health for Horses campaign brought to you by the FEI and Bowring at Ingelheim. So let's go inside. So I'm here with Nick de Brewer at Redwings in Norfolk, and Nick is the Head of Welfare and Behaviour. Now Nick, tell me a little bit about what you do here.
So Redwings is a horse sanctuary, so first and foremost we provide a lifelong home for vulnerable horses that needed us at the time. Over the years we've expanded into rehoming and reschooling and retraining because we've brought in everything from feral mares that are terrified of humans, but then often they've given birth to foals that are perfectly healthy, and so from that point now we really try and bring in any horse from a particular group. They can all come in, and then some will stay here for life, some will be nervous, and some will be trained up to be rehomed. So there's a whole mix of things. So we basically try and fix the problem they're suffering from and then find solutions for each horse as an individual.
Oh, fantastic. That's really lovely. And how many horses come through your doors here?
Our intakes vary, so as low as 150, sometimes some years it's been over 200. We've had some particularly catastrophic cases we've been involved in, which has really been putting us under pressure, but on average it's about 150 to 200 a year.
Yeah. So it must be, with all the horses coming through the doors, there's a big importance for keeping everything clean. That leads us on today to our topic of stable hygiene, and Nick is the man with all the tricks and tips to how to get our stables nice and clean. So should we go inside? Are you going to show us what to do?
By all means.
Perfect. Let's go. So I've just stepped inside to the rehoming centre here of Redwings, and there's lots and lots of stables. They did have horses in them a minute ago, but they've just gone out to their field. Anyway, there's one over here. Let's go meet this little chap over here. Hello, who are you? Oh, a little bit camera shy. Oh, and you? Oh my gosh, look at this little nose. So sweet. Hello. Here he is, here's the man. Okay, so Nick, we have some of these stables here. What one are we going to be disinfecting today?
Should we start with one that's got something in it like one of the ponies?
Yes, yes.
We can just have a look at the sort of areas that you need to focus on. You'll be familiar with the fact that we've got some poop in the corner, probably had a wee underneath, and they've messed up the hay and they've walked the bedding around. And potentially sometimes we know some horses will poop in their water, all that sort of stuff.
Common. Where's the tools, Nick?
Caught me off guard.
He doesn't know where the tools are. How often are you mucking out here, Nick? I don't think often enough. Well, luckily I'm not afraid of getting stuck in, and I'm going to give these guys a hand today and do the job. So I've done my mucking out of the stable, but what you can't see is that there's all this little bits of dust. I'm not going to touch the bird poo, and there's like bits in the corners here. Now this is where you get the hose in and you give it a good wash down with the hose.
We have a bucket of disinfectant here ready made up at the right concentration, but if we for a minute just imagine that this is water with some soap in it, we're still at the cleaning stage. So a brush and a scrubby will be good. But just to sort of have a look, this is one of the reasons why we want to clean stuff, is that we just threw that in the disinfectant. There's an awful lot of material here that really isn't going to be necessarily penetrated by the disinfectant, and some disinfectants actually don't work when they are sort of overwhelmed with too much stuff to try and get rid of bugs. So these are basically quite clean now. Leave them in the disinfectant and let them soak for however long the disinfectant recommends. Most disinfectants that can contact the surface you want to disinfect will work in about 20 minutes. If your hands are sensitive to the cleaning products, then gloves are also a good idea. Let's just now have a look at the removal of the physical dirt after the mucking out. Might not be a bad idea to wear a mask sometimes and goggles, particularly if you've got things like pigeons and chickens roosting in your stables, because their muck can also have mites and bugs in them. We're going to pretend that this is our soap and water. Really the thing to do is just to try and get rid of as much of the physical muck as possible. Really the best thing to do would be to have a brush in one hand and a hose in the other. So here we have a nice cooperative bit of bird poo that doesn't want to come off. So leave your water to soak into that for a few minutes and then come back to it. So the whole point of cleaning is to remove physically as much of the contamination as possible. Let's not forget as well the mats. So underneath the mats there will be a collection of pooled urine which has got ammonia in it. Ideally at this stage remove them too, take them out into a sunny spot where the drainage will take the muck and dirt away from your pasture, for example. You'll hose and wash those down as well, and then you can also give the floor a really good scrub. If you've got really stubborn areas, you could use a pressure washer. There's always a risk if you use the pressure washer at a really high setting that all you end up doing is spraying the bugs into the air, and then you risk spreading them to the rest of the barn. That's called aerosolizing the bugs. So the recommendation is to keep the pressure below that level, and again use the recommended guidance on your pressure washer to avoid that.
Nick's done a really fabulous demonstration of why it is very important to get rid of all of this dirt and grime before you start the disinfecting process. So you would give it a good rinse out and then head off for a cup of tea, wait for about half an hour till it dries, and then you can begin the disinfecting. Nick's just presented me with some very fetching overalls, which I'm now... Oh, are you going to put them on as well?
Sprayer, but that's really time consuming for large surface areas, but it's quite useful perhaps for little corners. And then different types of pressure washers or sprayers can be used for applying the disinfectant.
Nick, my stable at home, I've got a wooden stable. Can I still do this with a wooden stable?
So yes, you can, but the thing to do is probably rely more on the work of the physical cleaning side, so a bit more unfortunately of manual brush and scrub and hose pipe.
It's actually really satisfying.
So we've talked about wood, and as you can see the wood does actually really soak up the disinfectant. So the same principle will apply with bricks and porous concrete. Those sorts of materials do soak up a lot of the liquid, so if you're going to disinfect, you're probably going to have to do a couple of layers of spraying to get proper coverage. And it's the phenolic compounds that are recommended in those environments because they're more likely to work despite the fact that you've got wood and concrete that's absorbing the drug. So obviously one of the frustrations that you might have is that not all stables have got great drainage. Today we haven't removed the mats from this stable, but even if you do, that doesn't necessarily give you the drainage that you need. What we would suggest you then do is, once you've done all the walls, is that you then put extra disinfectant on the floor and just sweep it out into the yard. If you can scoop it into a drain, great, but if not, just somewhere where it's going to soak away.
So when it comes to choosing your disinfectant, I guess it's a bit of a minefield. So Nick is going to talk us through now what to look for when you're choosing the right disinfectant.
When you're looking at disinfectants, there's a vast array of products on the market. The first thing is to look for, in the UK, a DEFRA approved disinfectant. Other countries will obviously have their approval systems, so they have to get through a whole range of tests before they can get that label on the bottle. Second thing then is to speak to the person who manufactures or the vendor of the product, and again explain how you're going to use it and check that it's going to be fit for purpose. So the general advice is the phenolic based disinfectants are most likely to be the ones that are going to work in the stable environment, so where you've got the wooden stables, bits of muck left in the corner. There are other things like formalin, formaldehydes, but they are not only very effective but also highly toxic, so when you use those you have to be really careful, so those are not recommended. And then, for example, the iodine based ones are very effective. As soon as they come in contact with something like pus or droppings or straw and shavings, they stop working quite quickly, so they get inactivated in contact with organic matter. So again, don't use those if you're going to use them in the stable environment. They might be better for things like your tack afterwards, for your buckets and things like that. The other thing to remember is it's really important to rinse down anything that your horse is going to eat or drink from. So when you disinfect water tanks or feed bowls, let the disinfectant have contact time, do its work, but then thoroughly rinse out. And then ultimately it's following those steps of cleaning first, letting it dry, then disinfectant, and then let that dry, and then you should be ready to go again until the next time.
So I'd like to say a huge thank you to you, Nick, and the whole of Redwings for letting us join you today and to give us an insight on how to properly disinfect your stables. If you enjoyed this video, please keep an eye out for more just like this as part of the Health for Horses campaign partnered with Boehringer Ingelheim. Don't forget to subscribe to the FEI channel, like this video if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment, and see you all again next time.